A cordial greeting. Today is Thursday, October 23, 2025. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. At the time of recording this video, it is 5:30 in the afternoon, local time in Jamaica, where preparations should be wrapping up to face what could potentially be one of the most intense hurricanes in the country's history. And as you will see in the next few minutes, the situation appears to be quite difficult for the island of Jamaica and also for sectors of eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. And if we look at the visible satellite animation of Tropical Storm Melissa, it is evident that it is still being affected by wind shear from the west-southwest, which has kept the system very weak. In fact, maximum sustained winds are currently only 45 miles per hour. This wind shear also keeps the strongest rainfall and wind activity to the northeast of the circulation, and this has brought heavy showers today across the Dominican Republic and Haiti, where rainfall will continue over the next 5 days. And although at first glance it may seem that Tropical Storm Melissa does not represent a serious threat, unfortunately, it will be moving very slowly over the next 5 days, and starting tomorrow, atmospheric conditions are expected to become extremely favorable for rapid strengthening, potentially reaching Category 4 or even Category 5 strength as it passes near or over Jamaica. In addition, with this slow forward movement, historic rainfall is also expected across parts of Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba. Therefore, it is important not only to prepare for extreme winds but also for a period of intense and prolonged rainfall that will cause serious flooding and landslide problems. If we look at the infrared satellite animation, we can see that the circulation of Tropical Storm Melissa remains asymmetric, and we can also see an outer band moving over parts of southern and eastern Dominican Republic. This rain will affect the country through the rest of the night, potentially causing flooding in Dominican territory. In fact, models project that over the next 5 days, between 200 and 300 millimeters of rainfall could accumulate along the southern coast of the Dominican Republic and southern Haiti. Now, let's look at the latest projection from the track models. Unlike previous days, today we have a clearer picture and greater confidence in the forecast that the system will move very close to or over the island of Jamaica, which means that the system will affect the area for a period of 5 to 6 days, that is, until Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. This definitely worsens the situation, since the cyclone's effects will last for many days, putting lives and property at risk. And notice that almost all models show a track extremely close to or directly over Jamaica, except for the American model, which continues to insist on a path near or over Haiti, a solution we continue to rule out. In fact, when we analyze the ensemble members of the different models, you can see that the probabilities of impacting Jamaica are already considered high, with probably over a 70% chance that the center will move over the island. And notice that in the long term, models agree that it should move over sectors of eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, notice how quickly the models are forecasting that it will strengthen. In fact, in about 36 hours they already show a Category 1 hurricane, and in just 3 days they develop a powerful Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane and maintain it as a major hurricane for several days, until mid-next week. The latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center, issued at 5 p.m., maintains that north-northeast movement over the next 24 hours, and then takes a westward turn, eventually strengthening into a major hurricane during Saturday night or early Sunday morning as it nears Jamaica. Between Sunday and Tuesday, it will move almost stationary south of Jamaica. In fact, a track just south of the island could represent the worst-case scenario, as it would leave the northeastern quadrant of the future hurricane continuously affecting the island with strong winds and heavy rain. And notice that for southern Haiti, a tropical storm warning has been issued and a hurricane watch is in effect. Also, for Jamaica, a tropical storm warning has been issued as tropical storm conditions are expected within the next 36 hours. In addition, there is also a hurricane watch, which means that hurricane conditions could affect the island within about 48 hours. If the National Hurricane Center forecast is accurate, we are talking about a historic event for Jamaica. Since records began, only 6 Category 4 hurricanes have affected the island, and of those, only Hurricane Gilbert in 1988 crossed directly over it. Most likely, Jamaican residents can recognize that these hurricane names caused significant damage across the island. Therefore, Melissa could join this short list of hurricanes that have impacted the region since records began. In the next few minutes, I would like to talk about the expected impacts, particularly for Jamaica, and then discuss the forecast as it moves toward Cuba, the Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. To do this, I want to start by showing the projection from the European model, which at this moment is the one most closely aligned with the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. In particular, notice how the model projects that this cyclone could intensify in a surprisingly rapid way. First, I want you to see that starting Sunday, the European model projects extremely rapid intensification when it is located south of Jamaica, bringing the cyclone to Category 4 strength between Sunday and Monday, and then turning it northeastward, moving the center of circulation over Jamaica with wind gusts over 275 km per hour. Also notice that tropical storm force winds could affect the island from Saturday and extend through Wednesday or Thursday of next week. And under this scenario, notice some of the highest wind gusts projected. The European model has wind gusts exceeding 240 km per hour that could affect areas where the circulation center passes. And the European model is not the only one showing such an unfavorable outlook. For example, we have some intensity models that already, by Saturday afternoon, have a Category 3 hurricane developing east of Jamaica and crossing just south of or over the island between Sunday and Monday. This particular model shows a Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane making landfall in Jamaica on Monday morning, and unfortunately remaining over the region until at least Tuesday afternoon, eventually moving toward eastern Cuba as a Category 3 hurricane. On the other hand, we have another model showing a very similar scenario. It begins rapidly strengthening the system starting Friday, and by Saturday night it already has a Category 3 hurricane developing, and unfortunately during Sunday and Monday, it maintains a track just south of or over the island as a powerful Category 4 hurricane affecting populated sectors such as the city of Kingston. Then, by Tuesday night, it begins to move away from Jamaica and heads toward eastern Cuba, potentially as a Category 3 hurricane. And although these winds could be devastating and cause serious damage to infrastructure in Jamaica, we are also concerned about rainfall totals because the cyclone will be moving extremely slowly through the area, leaving heavy rainfall for a period of 5 to 7 days with totals that could exceed 500 to 700 millimeters across the island. And remember that these effects will depend on how close it passes to Jamaica. There are still some scenarios where it could remain to the right of the island. To see this, let's look at some of the runs from the global models, starting with the European model. As you already know, this model projects the hurricane moving slowly south of Jamaica during the weekend, and by early next week, moving over the island and then over eastern Cuba. Between Wednesday and Thursday, it moves across eastern Cuba and then over the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. In fact, the European model keeps it as a major hurricane for a period of at least 5 days. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we have another scenario shown by the German model with a much more eastward track, bringing the center of circulation to affect southern Haiti. Under this less likely scenario, Jamaica could be spared from the worst impacts. However, it would represent the worst-case scenario for Haiti, where hurricane-force winds and rainfall totals over 500 millimeters could be experienced. And remember that we also have the scenario from the American model, which continues maintaining that much farther east track over Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And although all indications suggest that this projection is not correct, it is always important to mention that residents of the Dominican Republic and Haiti should also continue monitoring the evolution of Tropical Storm Melissa. On the other hand, the European AI model, which has been very accurate this year, maintains a track just south of Jamaica until at least Tuesday afternoon when it moves over the island, and then keeps that track over eastern Cuba between Wednesday night and Thursday morning and over the southern Bahamas during Thursday afternoon. Well, here at Hurricane Info, I will continue monitoring the progress of this dangerous cyclone. And before I go, I wanted to ask you to share this video with friends and relatives so they can stay informed, especially if they live in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, the Turks and Caicos Islands, or the southern Bahamas. As you know, under this special coverage, I will continue recording at least 2 videos per day. And so that you don't miss this content, I invite you to like this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell so you receive notifications when I upload new videos. The next detailed forecast video will be recorded tomorrow at around 8 a.m. See you later.